My husband died in battle, I stayed a widow for 8 years, spent all my dowry to prop up this rundown Marquis manor, and even earned him a chastity memorial arch. On my deathbed, I didn't hesitate to cough up blood just to pave the way for my son. But my dear eldest son personally brought me a bowl of poison, smiling as he sent me off. My deceased husband, who had received 8 years of incense offerings in the ancestral hall, pushed open the door and walked in, with that beauty who should have been his kept woman in his arms. He kicked my corpse aside, his face full of disgust. If not for Warner's reputation, why would I have kept you? This venomous woman occupying the position for so many years. Now that it is Warner's birthday, this position of the Marquis Manor's main wife shall be her gift. So it turns out, he faked his death to elope with his true love. I was nothing but a tool for them to earn money and support the family, a complete sucker. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the news of my husband's death in battle arrived. The urgent war report from 800 lie away at the borderlands, along with the news of my husband Lu Wenzhou's death, arrived at the Marquis Manor together. In my previous life, when I heard this news, I felt as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had caved in, and I fainted on the spot. But this time I stood under the corridor, listening to the wailing throughout the courtyard, feeling completely unmoved, even wanting to laugh. My mother-in-law put on quite a show, clutching the messenger soldier's armor. She cried until she was gasping for breath, then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed stiffly to the ground. The old madam has fainted. Quick, get the doctor. The maids and servants were in chaos. The entire Marquis Manor was like a disturbed hornet's nest. I watched all of this with cold eyes, so noisy. I spoke up, all of you shut up. The noisy courtyard immediately fell silent. Everyone looked at me as if they had seen a ghost. I walked up to the steward and gave orders expressionlessly. From this moment on, close the manor gates, entry only, no exit. Everyone in the manor, without exception, shall wear white mourning clothes. Also dismiss all kitchen purchasers, remove all meat and greasy foods. Since we're mourning, we should look the part. The steward was stunned. Madam, this doesn't follow the rules. My gaze turned sharp, and I sneered, rules. Right now, in this Marquis Manor, I am the rules. He shuddered in fear and hurriedly bowed. I wouldn't dare. This old servant will go handle it immediately. I turned around and walked toward the ancestral hall. Lu Wenzhou's memorial tablet would soon be enshrined here. Good. Since you wanted to die, then never come back to life. An hour later, my dear son, the future young Marquis Lu Heng, charged in like a little cannonball. Fuming with anger, Mother, what gives you the right to stop the kitchen from making meat? I am still growing, and you want me to gnaw on pickled vegetables and drink thin porridge. He was only 8 years old, yet had already been raised to be completely lawless. In my past life, I obeyed his every whim, treated him like a precious treasure, and ended up raising a beast who would poison his own mother to please his birth father. Looking at his face, 70% similar to Lu Wenzhou's, I felt not a shred of maternal love, only disgust. Your father's body isn't even cold yet, and you, as the legitimate son, instead of grieving, only think about eating meat. Lu Heng was startled by my unprecedented sternness, but quickly stiffened his neck and retorted, looking completely justified. Father is already dead. What is wrong with me eating meat? I am the only heir of the Marquis Manor. I'll do whatever I want, slap. A resounding slap, crisp and clear. Lu Heng was slapped so hard he spun half a circle on the spot, covering his face, looking at me in disbelief. You dare hit me? I am hitting you precisely, because you are an unfilial son. I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him like a dead dog to the newly erected memorial tablet. Simone, tie up the young lord for me. 2 sturdy old servants hesitated, but under my intimidating presence, they still stepped forward and bound the desperately struggling Heng tightly with hemp rope. Your father died on the battlefield, so you'll kneel here for him. You won't get up until you understand what filial piety means. Lu Heng's cries and curses echoed throughout the ancestral hall. You vicious woman. Crazy hag, I am going to tell grandmother. I turned a deaf ear, only facing the memorial tablet, pulling out a cold, sinister smile. Lu Wenzhou, your precious son, I'll discipline him for you first. In this life, that gentle parenting stuff won't work anymore. I believe in spare the rod, spoil the child, or create a cripple. Everyone in the manor watched me, not daring to even breathe loudly. Their instincts were right, having crawled back from hell. I am no longer that gentle and virtuous Shenru Mei. I am a vengeful ghost here to claim lives. Early the next morning, the creditors showed up at the door right on schedule. The Marquis Manor of Dingen had long been emptied out. Lu Wenzhou was just like his father, a good-for-nothing who only knew how to indulge himself. Not only did he squander the family fortune, but he also racked up a mountain of debt. If it weren't for my generous dowry filling the gaps, this manor's facade would have been stripped bare long ago. My mother-in-law, supported by a maid, started wailing the moment she saw me. Shenru Mei, how dare you just stand there? What sin did our Lu family commit to marry a jinx like you? Wenzhou's body isn't even cold yet, and you are just going to watch these people tear down the manor. As she spoke, her bony claw-like hands grabbed at my sleeve, finally revealing her true intentions. Where is your dowry? Hurry up and take it out. Plug these holes first. Here we go again, in my past life. This was exactly how she guilt-tripped me, and I foolishly poured my entire fortune into this bottomless pit. This time, dream on, I gently dodged her hand and took the opportunity to fall to my knees with a thud, crying even more pitifully than her, my acting skills skyrocketing. Mother, are you trying to drive your daughter-in-law to death? My husband died in battle, and I am just a helpless woman with no one to rely on. Where would I have any money? As the ancient saying goes, when the husband dies, follow the son. Now Henger is the heir of the Marquis Manor, so this debt should rightfully be borne by him. I noticed that Henger's jade pendant and longevity lock are worth some money. My mother-in-law was stunned. Henger is just a child. What do you expect him to pay with? If Henger doesn't have it, the Marquis Manor does. I wiped my tears, speaking in a pitiful and miserable tone. Yet my voice was loud enough for the creditors at the door to hear clearly those antiques and calligraphy paintings in the manor and the estate in the suburbs are all ancestral property. Selling them would fetch quite a sum. As long as we can preserve the dignity of the Marquis Manor and protect my husband's reputation, I am willing to sell off the family property without hesitation. The moment these words came out, my mother-in-law's face turned green. Those were all her nest egg for the coffin. How dare you? You unfilial daughter-in-law, how dare you set your sights on the ancestral property? She trembled with rage, pointing at my nose and cursing furiously. I pulled out a thick stack of account books from my chest, holding them high like I was holding a satchel charge. Mother, this is the record of the Marquis Manor's expenses over the past 10 years. Every single entry is crystal clear. The dowry from my Shen family has long been used up to the last coin. I've even pawned the hairpin I kept at the bottom of my chest. If you keep pushing me, I'll go beat the drum at the palace gate to cry injustice. I, Shenru Mei, would rather sell myself to bury my husband than let his good name be tarnished. The 4 words, sell myself to bury my husband, struck my mother-in-law and the creditors outside the door dumb. The Marquis Manor's mistress is going to sell herself on the street. If word got out, the entire Lu family's reputation would be trampled in the mud, and even the royal family's face would look bad. My mother-in-law's lips trembled for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Seeing the resolve in my eyes, she knew I had truly gone mad. In the end, she gritted her teeth and squeezed out a sentence through clenched jaws. All of you get in here. Get the money. She tottered back to her own courtyard, and before long, several trusted old servants painfully carried out a few chests of silver, sending away all the creditors. I knew this was just a drop in the bucket from her private treasury, but this is only the beginning, you old hag. I'll slowly pry out every last bit of your coffin money. With the crisis averted, I immediately put on a filial expression and walked up to my mother-in-law. Mother, you've been frightened. Let your daughter-in-law help you back to rest. As I held her hand, it felt like touching a piece of rotting wood on the verge of death. These servants around you handled things poorly and nearly disturbed you. I think we should replace them before she could object. I waved my hand. Several second-rank maids from my courtyard immediately stepped forward and politely yet firmly escorted away all of my mother-in-law's trusted servants. Mother-in-law looked at the emptiness around her, then looked at me, that look in her eyes, as if she wanted to eat me alive. But I smiled slightly at her, the picture of gentleness. Mother, from today on, I call the shots in this Marquis Manor. You just relax and enjoy your retirement and wait to die. I am dying of laughter. This female lead really knows how to play. The first thing she does after Rebirth is tie up the brat and make him kneel in the ancestral hall, then immediately changes face and cries poor, forcing her mother-in-law to cough up her savings. I give this move full marks. What do you call selling yourself to bury your husband? This is the ultimate killer move. The mother-in-law's expression must have turned green, feeling sorry for her secret stash. The female lead's acting skills are wasted if she doesn't go into theater. The Oscars owe her a golden statue. Lu Heng knelt in the ancestral hall for a day and a night, so hungry he was dizzy. When he was let out, thinking he could feast, what awaited him was still a bowl of porridge so thin you could see your reflection in it, with 2 vegetable leaves floating on top. He smashed the bowl on the spot, porridge spilling all over the floor. I won't eat this. Even dogs wouldn't eat this. I want meat. I want roast chicken. After making a fuss for a long time, he took advantage of the servant's inattention and tried to sneak out through the back door. But just as he ran to the back garden, he was caught red-handed by me. I didn't scold him, let alone hit him. I just stood in front of him, tears streaming down my face, as if he were the most disappointing person in the world to me. Hanger, how could you do this? If your father's spirit is watching from heaven, seeing you act so unruly, how heartbroken he would be. I cried as if my heart was being torn apart, as though I had suffered the greatest injustice. Lu Heng was somewhat at a loss seeing me like this. Before, whenever he threw a tantrum, I would give in. Why wasn't this trick working anymore? I turned to the old servant behind me and ordered, "Go fetch the family discipline rod." Soon the old servant came back holding a thorny switch as thick as an arm, covered with barbs. This was the Lu family's ancestral discipline rod. It was said that one lash could tear flesh from bone. Lu Heng's face turned pale with fear. He kept backing away, his calves trembling. "Mother, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again." Just then, a maidservant came running over in a panic, breaking the standoff. "Madam, this is bad, Miss Yao. She stole the offerings meant for the Marquis." Lu Yao was Lu Wenzhou's concubine-born younger sister. She had always been invisible, living like a ghost in the manor, and only resorted to this because she was starving. Everyone thought I would fly into a rage and punish this concubine-born daughter along with the rest. But I wiped away my tears and personally went over to help Lu Yao up from where she knelt on the ground. I picked up the pastry she had half nibbled, and far from scolding her, I revealed a gratified smile as if I had discovered some priceless treasure. "Good child, get up quickly. I know you are not being greedy. You just want to be closer to your brother, to taste whether this pastry still has the flavor he loved when he was alive. In this entire manner, only you still remember your brother. What a pure and filial good child you are." Lu Yao was stunned, looking at me in disbelief, the half piece of pastry in her hand falling to the ground. I held her hand and announced in front of everyone, from today on, Yaoer will move to my courtyard and I will personally raise her food, clothing, and expenses shall all follow the standards of a legitimate young miss. Since the young heir doesn't know any better, someone has to uphold the reputation of this Marquis manor. After saying that, I turned to look at Lu Heng, the smile on my face immediately vanishing. My expression changed faster than flipping a page. "Look at your sister. Now look at yourself. As the legitimate son, you disrespect your father, show no remorse, and even tried to sneak out of the manor. Someone lock this unfilial son in the firewood shed. Without my orders, don't let him out, don't give him any food either. Let him starve and reflect on his mistakes." Lu Heng was completely dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why his money-losing sister who stole food was rewarded, while he just wanted to go out and play, yet was being locked in the firewood shed. He was forcibly dragged away by 2 old servants, his mouth still crying out about my favoritism. I watched his retreating figure disappear. "Lu Heng, this is just the beginning. I am going to cut off your connections with those shady friends outside, grind away your arrogance, then give you false sweetness. As for Lu Yao, this invisible nobody who was bullied to death in my past life, in this life, she'll become the sharpest blade in my hands. One is the legitimate daughter praised to the heavens, the other is the young lord reduced to a prisoner. I really look forward to this good show." 3 days later, my trusted aide stationed outside the manor brought back an earth-shattering piece of news. He saw Lu Wenzhou, who had died in battle at a villa in the city outskirts. Just as I thought, not only was he alive and well, he and his true love, Lu Honor, had opened a calligraphy and painting shop at the villa, living quite the peaceful, idyllic life. I felt not a ripple in my heart, and even wanted to applaud his acting skills. I changed into the most inconspicuous coarse cloth clothes and quietly slipped out through the back door. Standing outside that elegant villa through the window, I saw the most disgusting scene of my life. Lu Wenzhou was holding Lu Honor by the waist, teaching her to paint hand in hand, looking every bit the loving couple. And my good son Lu Heng had somehow escaped from the woodshed. He was sitting beside them, happily eating the pastries Lu Honor fed him, laughing without a care in the world, a family of 3, happy and harmonious, making me look like a redundant joke. I heard Lu Heng complaining, "Dad, mother is so mean. She makes me drink porridge every day and locks me up like a crazy woman." Lu Honor gently stroked his head, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Be good, Hanger, your mother is just in a bad mood. After all, being a widow, it is inevitable she'd become mentally twisted. In a while, your dad will bring us back." Lu Wenzhou let out a scornful laugh, his face full of disdain. "Don't bother with that old hag, just let her stay in the manor as a living widow. Her dowry is generous, perfect for making money to support us. Once we've drained her dry, we'll kick her out. Wanner, I've wronged you. Wait a few more years, and I'll definitely give you the title of the Marquis Manor's main wife." I stood outside the window, listening to the laughter inside, my stomach churning, but my mind was unusually clear. So that is how it is. So from the very beginning, this was a complete pig butchering scam. My 8 years of youth, 8 years of devotion. In their eyes was nothing but a convenient ATM. I didn't rush in to tear their faces apart. That would be letting them off too easy. I turned and left without a sound back. At the Marquis Manor, I walked straight to the ancestral hall, looked at Lu Wenzhou's brand new memorial tablet, and smiled. "You like playing dead, don't you? You want an empty shell of a Marquis Manor, don't you? Think bigger, I'll grant your wish." I immediately summoned my most trusted dowry steward. Effective immediately, secretly sell off all the shops, estates, and farmland under my name. Convert everything into gold bars and banknotes. Don't leave a single one behind. The steward was shocked. "Madam, this is the foundation of the Marquis' manor." I looked at her and spoke calmly. "The Marquis is already dead. I am merely taking back what should have belonged to me. Also, the blood debt they owe me must be repaid with blood." After Lu Heng was let out, he seemed like a different person. He no longer smashed bowls, nor did he clamor for meat. He just looked at me with a gloomy, venomous gaze like a viper waiting to strike. I pretended not to notice, and instead showed him a motherly smile, my acting skills back online. "Hanger, it was mother's fault. I was too grief-stricken those past few days and took it out on you. Now that your father is gone, you are the Marquis Manor's only hope. Mother must nurture you well in front of all the household servants. I grandly announced that I would hire the best tutors in the entire capital city for Lu Heng." My mother-in-law thought I had finally come to my senses. Some color returned to her face, thinking I had finally gotten back on the virtuous wife and loving mother track. Lu Heng was also stunned, the venom in his eyes turning into confusion. I quickly found 3 renowned tutors for him. One taught the classics, his mouth full of literary phrases, yet he couldn't even recite theatre fully. What he was best at was reading people's expressions and flattering them. One teaches martial arts, sporting a beer belly, panting after just a few steps, only knowing how to brag about his glory days. Another teaches calligraphy and painting. Tries to paint a tiger but ends up with a dog, yet he is the best at praising people for having artistic integrity. I paid them extremely high salaries, with only one requirement. My hanger is the Marquis's orphan, naturally gifted and intelligent. Just praise him to death. Whatever he wants to do, let him do it. Never restrain his nature. Let him grow up happy. The 3 renowned teachers understood perfectly. Taking money to do a job, who couldn't do that? And so Lu Heng's school became a paradise for cockfighting and dog racing. His nonsensical crooked poems were praised by the classics teacher as having the style of Li Bai, practically a literary star descended from heaven. His amateur martial arts were hyped by the martial arts teacher as having the valor of the hegemon king. Even Elabu Reborn couldn't compare. His chicken scratch calligraphy was framed by the painting teacher, who said it had the air of a master wild cursive that could shake heaven and make ghosts weep. Lu Heng quickly lost himself completely in the sugar-coated bombardment. He began to believe he was a once-in-a-generation genius, and that his previous setbacks were all because I, his mother, couldn't recognize talent. In the school, he openly brought servants to fight crickets, and even snapped the teacher's ruler in half. The teacher came to me putting on a show of complaint. In front of Lu Heng, I cursed the teacher until his head was dripping with blood. The Marquise's bones aren't even cold yet, and you dare to be harsh with his only bloodline. He is just a child. What is wrong with being a bit playful? Geniuses are always different. As a teacher, can't you be more tolerant? I stuffed a silver ingot into the teacher's hand and sent him away. Turning around, Lu Heng was looking at me smugly, as if showing off his victory. I rubbed his head, my face full of doting, but inside I was sneering. My hanger is indeed impressive. Meanwhile, in my study, Lu Yao was leaning over the desk, learning to read account books, stroke by stroke following my guidance. She was very smart and patient, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. I handed her an inconspicuous little silk fabric shop. Yaoer, this shop is yours to practice with from now on. Don't be afraid of losing money. If you lose any, sister-in-law will cover it for you. Just remember how to turn silver into more silver, and also how to factor people's hearts into your calculations. Lu Yao nodded firmly, her eyes sparkling with a light I had never seen before, looking at her serious profile. Then at Lu Heng outside the window, who had already been spoiled into a good-for-nothing, my smile deepened. Lu Wenzhou, isn't your precious son what you value most? I'll personally raise him into a dandy who can barely read a single character and only knows how to cause trouble. And your most looked down upon half-sister will inherit everything of mine. Guess, when the day you return comes and you see this scene, will your expression be priceless? As soon as the autumn wind picked up, my mother-in-law fell ill. Calling it an illness, it was actually just pent-up anger I caused her. Plus, she was so used to a life of luxury that she couldn't endure the slightest hardship. She lay in bed, moaning and groaning to the newly assigned maid. I want a bowl of bird's nest soup to soothe my throat. The maid came to report to me, trembling with fear. I personally went to the kitchen and carefully prepared a bowl of soup for her. In front of a room full of servants, I carried a chipped, broken bowl and walked into my mother-in-law's room. Mother, here is the bird's nest you asked for. My mother-in-law struggled to sit up, and when she saw those few wilted wild vegetable leaves in the bowl and the watery broth, her eyes went wide. Shen Rumei, this is what you call bird's nest. Are you feeding pigs? I dropped to my knees with a thud, tears coming on command. It is really a waste that I didn't become an actress. Mother, your daughter-in-law is unfilial. The household truly can't make ends meet anymore. My husband's pension still hasn't come through, and creditors come knocking every day. This bowl of wild vegetable soup your daughter-in-law personally went to the back mountain to dig it up for you, bit by bit. Look at my hands. I held out both hands, covered with tiny cuts I'd made on purpose and smeared with dirt. As long as you can get better, your daughter-in-law is willing to endure any hardship. My mother-in-law looked at my hands, then at that bowl of wild vegetable soup, and got so angry she couldn't catch her breath, breaking into violent coughing. You vicious woman, you are trying to starve me to death, I cried even harder. Mother, how could you think of me like that? Everything I do is for the Marquis Manor for you. These days, wild vegetables are organic food. They are expensive. The servants watched my tearful performance, then looked at the old madam trembling with rage on her sick bed, their eyes showing a mix of sympathy and admiration. They all thought that being the Marchioness was truly not easy for me, that I was so great. My mother-in-law's condition worsened from my provocation, and she finally made up her mind to contact Lu Wenzhou. She waited until the dead of night and secretly released a carrier pigeon. She thought she had done it without anyone knowing. Unfortunately, the new little maid in her courtyard was my person. The carrier pigeon had just flown over the courtyard wall when it was caught by a large net. I got that letter written with such heartfelt sincerity, clearly stating that Lu Wenzhou should hurry and find a way to get some money, saying his mother was being tortured to death by me, this wicked daughter-in-law. I let out a cold laugh and burned the letter to ashes. The next day, Lu Yao's lunch included an extra pot of fragrant pigeon soup. Sister-in-law, what is this? I wiped the oil stains from the corner of her mouth. It is to nourish your body. You've been working so hard lately learning household management from me. This pigeon flew over from the old madam's place. Very nourishing. Lu Yao drank the soup without asking anything. We both knew what was going on. After cutting off my mother-in-law's escape route, I wasn't planning to stop there. I had the steward spread a new rumor throughout the major tea houses in Capital City. I didn't say Marquis Manor was poor, that would be too low class instead. I said the feng shui of Marquis Manor had gone wrong, that it was a cursed place that brought death to husbands and sons. The Marquis died unjustly, his resentment was heavy, and he'd been wandering around the city outskirts lately. Once this news spread, the entire capital city was buzzing with gossip. Those nobles and officials believed in this stuff the most. Soon Lu Wenzhou's calligraphy and painting shop Qingfeng Yaji in the city outskirts saw its business plummet. After all, who would buy paintings made by a marquis who was cursed to death? Wouldn't that just be inviting bad luck upon yourself? Lu Wenzhou, I am not just going to leave you penniless, I am going to ruin your reputation too. Cut off your supplies, then destroy your name. Let's see how long you and your delicate little Miss Wanner can hold out, and whether love alone can fill your stomachs. Just as I expected, Lu Wenzhou's calligraphy and painting shop soon went out of business. Lu Wanner was used to being pampered. How could she endure this kind of hardship where they didn't know where their next meal would come from? She began quarreling with Lu Wenzhou daily, urging him to return to the manor soon. Wenzhou, let's go back. You are the Marquis. Why should we let that woman occupy the Marquis's manor? If we wait any longer, Henger will be ruined by her. Yesterday, he even stole Wang Ermazi's chicken from next door. Lu Wenzhou was annoyed by her nagging, yet couldn't produce a single coin. The once romantic and talented scholar had now become a useless good-for-nothing who could only sigh. Just then, an even bigger trouble came knocking. Lu Heng had been gambling outside and owed a whopping 500 taels in gambling debts. He was beaten black and blue by the gambling house thugs. Crying for his parents as he ran back to the side residence to ask his father for money, "Dad, give me money, otherwise they'll beat me to death." Lu Wenzhou looked at this disappointing son, trembling with rage, and slapped him across the face. "Where would I get money for you? Your mother has emptied out everything we had." The father and son started arguing on the spot, exposing each other's dirty laundry. Quite a lively scene. In his desperation, Lu Heng actually got some crooked ideas. While Lu Wanner wasn't paying attention, he stole a jewelry box she had placed on the vanity, filled with her most treasured hairpins and jewelry. He took the jewelry box and ran to the gambling house to pay off his debt. When Lu Wanner discovered her jewelry was missing, she went crazy on the spot, her potential as a shrewish woman fully unleashed. Lu Wenzhou, look at the good son you raised. He stole my things. That is my dowry, my lifeline. I am done with you. The villa descended into chaos. Father and son turned against each other. Lovers grew distant. I am dying of laughter. So this is the legendary true love. The son steals his stepmother's jewelry to gamble. The dad has no money and shifts the blame to his legal wife, and the white moonlight transforms into a shrew on the spot. This whole family's dog-eat-dog battlefield. I'd call it the live version of When a Poor Couple Meets. Everything goes wrong. The female lead's move to cut off their lifeline is brilliant, cutting supplies, ruining reputation, raising a useless son, a triple combo that turned them into a squad of mutual destruction. When love meets poverty, they can't even be bothered to pretend anymore. Absolutely perfect. This dog-eat-dog drama soon reached my ears. Listening to my confidant's report, I leisurely sipped my tea. Delicious. The time has come. I gave instructions to a servant woman in my courtyard. Go to the biggest gambling den in Changle District and find a man called Brother Leopard. Tell him that Lu Heng, the one who owes you money, his father may be a penniless wretch, but he still has a pretty nice property in the city outskirts. Give him the address, remember, make it sound pitiful. Stir up Brother Leopard's sympathy and greed. The servant woman understood perfectly and left immediately. I set down my teacup and looked out the window, my gaze sharp as a blade. Lu Wenzhou, didn't you want to hide outside and enjoy your peaceful life? I am going to drag you out of that rat hole. Don't you feel sorry for your Wanner? I'll make you watch with your own eyes as she is driven to a dead end because of you, because of your good son. I want to see how you, the dead Marquis of Ding'an, will handle it when the gambling den thugs come knocking to take away your last shelter. Brother Bao moved fast. Professional teams are just different. The very next day, he brought a gang of fierce-looking thugs and kicked open the gate of Lu Wenzhou's villa. When they discovered that the debtor Lu Heng's penniless father was actually the Marquis of Ding'an, who had supposedly died in battle long ago. Everyone was stunned, but after the shock came even greater greed. A living marquis was worth way more than some rundown courtyard. This was practically a walking money tree. They not only seized the villa, but also robbed Lu Wenzhou and Lu Wan'er of everything valuable on them, not even sparing the wooden hairpin on Lu Wan'er's head. For the first time, Lu Wenzhou tasted what it felt like to cry out to heaven with no answer, to call upon the earth with no response. His identity as a dead man made him too afraid to even report it to the authorities. With nowhere left to turn, he finally made the only choice he could. We're going back to the Manor Wan'er hangar, we're going home. I am the Marquis, I am the master there. Once we're back at the Marquis Manor, everything will be fine. He planned a resurrection scheme, intending to sneak over the wall into the manor in the dead of night, find his mother, and work together from inside and out to reclaim everything. He thought that as long as he showed up, everything would return to normal. How naive. What he didn't know was that an even bigger net had long been spread open for him, just waiting for the fish to swim into the trap. On the same day he decided to return to the manor, I was making grand preparations at the Marquis Manor. The manor was decorated with lanterns and festoons, yet also hung with white funeral banners, giving off an indescribable eeriness like holding a ghost wedding for the living. In the ancestral hall, incense burned abundantly, and offerings were piled high like mountains. I had invited all the elders of the Lu clan as well as some prominent figures in the capital. Dear uncles and elders, today marks the 3rd anniversary of my late husband Wenzhou's death. As his wife, I should give him a grand send-off to comfort his spirit in heaven. After all, the dead deserve the utmost respect. The clan elders nodded in agreement, praising me for being virtuous and sensible, a credit to the Lu family. My mother-in-law was supported by her maids, watching this lively yet eerie scene, her face full of fear and unease. She wanted to say something, but I silenced her with a single glance. Night deepened, and the guests were enjoying themselves. Just then, a disheveled figure sneakily climbed over the wall from the back courtyard. It was Lu Wenzhou, the moment he landed, before he could even catch his breath. 7 or 8 guards armed with clubs rushed out from the darkness. Catch the thief, there is an intruder in the Marquis' manor. These guards were hired by me at great expense from an escort agency, each one skilled in martial arts and ruthless in their strikes. They didn't give Lu Wenzhou any chance to explain at all, and just started beating him with their clubs. Lu Wenzhou screamed desperately, "Stop! I am the Marquis. I am Lu Wenzhou." The head of the guards sneered coldly, slamming a club into his back. "What Marquis are you? We only follow Madame's orders. Madame says there is a thief in the manor, then you are a thief. Beat him." The clubs rained down like a storm, amidst the screams of agony. A crisp sound of bone cracking rang out, sounding particularly pleasant. Lu Wenzhou's leg was broken on the spot. The guards dragged him by that crippled leg, like dragging a dead dog, all the way from the backyard to the brightly lit ancestral hall. He was still wailing about his identity nonstop, and I was standing at the entrance of the ancestral hall, looking down at him from above. Like a god passing judgment, Lu Wenzhou, welcome home for your grand show of returning from the dead. I've gathered all the audience for you. When that dead dog was dragged into the ancestral hall and thrown in front of all the guests and clan elders, the whole place erupted in uproar. I am Lu Wenzhou. I am the real Marquis of Ding'an. You blind bastards. Lu Wenzhou clutched his broken leg, howling with a twisted, ferocious expression. After everyone got a clear look at his face, they all gasped. That face did indeed bear a 7 or 8 out of 10 resemblance to the Marquis of Ding'an, Lu Wenzhou, from 3 years ago. The clan elders exchanged glances, at a loss for what to do. Some even began to tremble. Just then, I walked out from behind the crowd, my face bearing just the right amount of terror and grief. Who are you? What kind of demon are you, daring to impersonate my late husband's appearance and disturb the peace of his death anniversary? My voice was stern and severe, every word dripping with blood, each one like a coup crying blood. When Lu Wenzhou saw me, his eyes turned red, wishing he could rush up and bite me. Shen Rumei, you vicious woman, how dare you not recognize me? I am your husband, Simone. I shouted toward the door, interrupting his spellcasting. Quickly go invite the Taoist priest from Qingshu Temple. Tell them there is an evil spirit in the manor, taking human form and causing chaos here. I had already arranged for a fake Taoist priest who was waiting outside at this very moment with all the props ready, before the Taoist could enter. Lu Wan'er came rushing in like a madwoman with Lu Heng. "He is Lu Wenzhou, he is my husband, you can't hit him." Lu Heng even pointed at my nose and cursed furiously. "You evil woman, he is my father. Why are you trying to harm him? I'll kill you." All the guests in the hall watched this chaotic scene completely dumbfounded. I let out a cold laugh. This was exactly the moment I had been waiting for. I slowly walked to the center of the ancestral hall, pointing at the two things hanging high above the memorial tablet. On it was the official document of Lu Wenzhou's death in battle issued by the Ministry of War back then. The other is the Imperial Calligraphy Memorial Arch personally bestowed by His Majesty, commending my chastity. I spoke up, black ink on white paper, stamped with the government office's official seal, stating that my husband Lu Wenzhou died for his country 3 years ago. His Majesty's golden words of jade, personally bestowing a chastity memorial arch, commending my merit as Shenrume for remaining a widow. I turned to look at Lu Wenzhou, my aura fully unleashed. "Now you, a person of unknown origin, claim to be Lu Wenzhou, you adulterous pair, along with this unfilial son. Also claim he is Lu Wenzhou. Then let me ask everyone present." My gaze swept across everyone present, asking word by word. "A verbal killing blow. Is the Ministry of War's official document wrong, or is it that the current emperor is incompetent and foolish, deceived by a mere woman like me? I am totally floored by this move. The female lead has cornered the scumbag. You say you are Lu Wenzhou? That means the Ministry of War's document is fake, and the chastity memorial arch bestowed by the emperor is also fake. Once the hat of deceiving the sovereign comes down, 10 heads wouldn't be enough to chop off. The scumbag is now stuck between a rock and a hard place. Admit he is Lu Wenzhou, and he is a deserter who faked his death, entire family executed. Deny it, and he is an imposter, pretending to be the Marquis, also a dead end. The female lead's move of using his own spear against his own shield is absolutely brilliant. I'd call this a textbook-level social death operation. The 4 words deceiving the emperor were like 4 great mountains, pressing down on everyone until they couldn't breathe. The clan elders were so frightened their faces turned deathly pale, waving their hands repeatedly. Who would dare wear such a label? Lu Wan'er and Lu Heng were also stunned. They hadn't expected me to escalate the matter to this level. I didn't give them any chance to catch their breath, continuing to press them. Step by step, fine, even if I take 10,000 steps back and assume you really are Lu Wenzhou. Then, the battle report from 3 years ago was fake, and you are just a deserter who faked his death to avoid battle. According to the laws of Great Zhou, your entire family should be executed, and 3 generations of your clan exterminated. If you are not a deserter, then what are your intentions? Coming back from the dead after 3 years? Could it be that you are a spy sent by an enemy nation? Trying to use the name of our Marquis' manor to commit treasonous acts, deserter or spy, or perhaps a demon. Take your pick, every word was like a heavy hammer, ruthlessly smashing into Lu Wenzhou's heart, shattering it to pieces. He looked at me, his eyes finally filled with fear. He finally understood that from the moment he decided to fake his death, he had already died on a social level. What was alive now was merely a wandering ghost with no identity, no past, and guilty of the crime of deceiving the emperor. Shenrume, how vicious you are. The people from the capital magistrate's office arrived quickly after all this matter had blown up. The situation had escalated to the level of deceiving the emperor, and no one dared to be negligent. This was a matter of losing one's head. Both witnesses and evidence were present. Back then, Lu Wenzhou bribed his military colleagues to fake his death. The evidence was accidentally discovered by my people in the study of his villa, and the fact that he'd been living it up with Lu Wan'er outside these past 3 years had countless neighbors who could testify. There was no way to deny it. The evidence was ironclad, with no hope of overturning the case. The verdict came down quickly with astonishing efficiency. Lu Wenzhou, for faking his death to evade military service, deceiving the emperor, and committing heinous crimes, was sentenced to exile 3,000 li away, to be carried out immediately. Lu Wan'er, as an accomplice who knowingly committed the crime and disgraced the family name, was to be sent to the court of entertainment, never to be redeemed for life. My mother-in-law, who had been faking illness all along, couldn't handle the blow when she heard the verdict. She couldn't catch her breath and actually had a stroke, leaving her paralyzed and unable to speak, only able to drool from her crooked mouth. And my good son Lu Hong, for harboring criminals and the massive gambling debts he'd racked up before, was officially stripped of his heir status, reduced to a commoner, and kicked out of the Marquis Manor. The last time I saw him was on a snowy day. He was dressed in rags, huddled in a street corner, fighting a stray dog over a cold-steamed bun, his face covered in frostbite sores. When he saw my carriage passing by, he tried to rush over, shouting "Mother," but was kicked away by a guard and rolled several times in the snow. I couldn't even be bothered to lift the carriage curtain. The Liu family was completely finished. After dealing with all of this, I submitted my final memorial to the throne. I petitioned the emperor, stating that the Liu family was without virtue. My husband was a deserter, my son was a gambler, and my mother-in-law was unkind. As a wife and mother, I truly had no face left and couldn't bear to face our ancestors. I voluntarily returned the imperial title and chastity memorial arch bestowed by His Majesty, divorced from the Liu family, and established my own household. I only asked to take with me the concubine-born daughter Liu Yao, whom I had always raised and who was of pure character, along with my dowry. The emperor greatly praised me, this long-suffering, virtuous woman. Not only did he grant my request, but he also rewarded me with a residence in the capital city suburbs and 1,000 taels of gold as compensation for emotional damages. The day the imperial edict came down, I took Liu Yao and over a dozen carts of family assets I had already transferred out, and walked out of the gates of Dingen Marquis Manor with my head held high. That cage where I had spent 8 years of my youth and shed blood and tears now only had a paralyzed old hag in a courtyard full of desolation. Later, I found Liu Yao a gentle and kind-natured husband who married into our family. The couple was harmonious, living in perfect harmony, and their days were prosperous. I taught her all my business skills and methods. As for myself, I became the richest and most carefree single wealthy woman in the capital city. When I had nothing to do, I'd listen to little tunes, watch song and dance performances, and occasionally hear some rumors from the frontier. It is said that the exiled deserter didn't survive the first winter and froze to death on the road, his body gnawed by wild wolves. And in the court of entertainment, there was now a crazy woman who kept claiming she was the Marchioness, getting beaten every day. Hearing all this, I just smiled, picked up the grape wine beside me, and drank it all in one gulp. Everything in life is bitter, only making money is sweet. In this life, I finally lived for myself just this once. The sunshine is just right, the breeze is gentle, how wonderful. Court of Entertainment. The Court of Entertainment was an ancient government office that managed palace music and theatrical performances under the Ministry of Rights. It was also a place to detain family members of convicted officials and criminal women. These women were forced to perform songs and dances, held a lowly status, and could never buy their freedom for life. To put it bluntly, it is like an ancient version of a labor camp plus nightclub combo. On the surface, it is a place to teach you singing and dancing, but in reality, it is a living hell specifically for punishing women who committed crimes. Women who went in basically got a double whammy of social death plus physical torture. Wanna get out? Dream on. A green tea white lotus like Luan are going in there. That is what you call you reap what you sow. Used to make a living off her face, now she is getting beaten because of it too. This is called what goes around comes around, so sisters, better stay in your lane. Don't always think about being a homewrecker stealing someone's husband, or your ending will be like Luwaners. Wanna learn more?